Volume down. Okay, here is your quick little economics lesson. The things that we're going to cover today is balance of trade, trade surplus, and trade deficit. As you will find, countries are kind of wound up in this stuff this day and age because all that stuff matters. It really matters is the difference between goods coming in to the country versus goods coming out of the country. So go to page 41, 42 of your notebooks and write down this little outline. Okay. And the first thing is let's define balance of trade. The balance of trade is known as the difference between exports and imports. And we talked about exports are goods exiting the country, so goods leaving the United States, versus goods being imported to the US, which is goods coming into the country. In a trade surplus, we have more exports, or where exports are bigger than imports. So you can see that nicely in the graph right there. This would be an ideal situation. It means that countries are more reliant on the things that you produce than you are reliant on them. This would be an ideal situation for the United States. On to the next one. By the way, pause if you need to catch up on the note taking. A trade deficit is the exact opposite. It's when imports are bigger than exports. So the saying is we buy more from places like China versus China buying from the US. In fact, the United States is in the biggest trade deficit with China alone. Think about why. China makes most of the goods that we buy nowadays. Okay, moving on. Here's what the current US situation looks like as of March 2019. We have total exports of the country, goods leaving, at $408.4 billion. And goods coming into the country at $598.5 billion. So, like it says here, I want you to take a minute or 30 seconds and describe the balance of trade for the United States in March of 2019. All right, I'm going to click to reveal the answer in a moment here. So pause the video and see if you can mathematically calculate out the trade deficit or the trade surplus. Okay, now that we're back, the answer would be we have a $190.1 billion trade deficit. Okay, how did I figure that out? I took 408.4 and I subtracted 598.5 from that answer. The difference is a negative 190.1. All right, here's another graph of the current US situation. This graph shows that we're in $50 billion trade deficit, although that would be incorrect compared to what we see right here. Okay, so in any case, we're making too many purchases from other countries. All right, last thing here is to try some of these out yourself. One of the things that you'll be assessed on in our little economics test is if you can figure out whether or not a country has a trade deficit or a trade surplus based on little pie graphs. So what I'd like you to do is I'll guide you through this first one, you'll do the second one yourself, is open up your Schoology Chromebook to this little page right here. So I went to quarter 4, and then I went to economics unit, and I clicked on balance of trade charts. So I needed page, if we look here, I needed page, need page 106 because I want you to tell me if we have a trade deficit or a trade surplus on that page. So I go into page 106 of that atlas, which would be right here, balance of trade charts. Open that guy up. And I'm going to scroll down simply to find the Chinese charts of the little circle pie charts. We'll give it a moment here to think. Awesome. So I can see up here towards the tops of the page that we're on page 51, so I just got to scroll down, looking for Cuba, I think it was. And I think it's right here. So I can see that, and I can zoom in if needed. Okay. I can see that Cuba had a $2.2 billion worth of exports, and imports were 5.1. So I can go back here and I can figure out that math problem. I take my exports, which was 2.2, and then I'm going to subtract, what was it, 5.3, and I figure that out to be a number, right? I know the difference between 0.2 and 0.1 is 0.1, and if I'm correct, it would be a negative $3.1 billion deficit, right? Sometimes I can't subtract this stuff out, okay? So what I need to do is actually do the reversal, 5.3 minus 2.1, but I have to remember that my exports were smaller than my imports, and when that happens, I have a trade deficit. All right, here's your job, and the last thing I want you to do is try one on your own. So you try, go to Chile, page 116. All right, so it just should be down a little bit here. Right there it is. And use those graphs to tell me if you have a trade surplus or a trade deficit. Good luck. Okay, now that we're back, you had some time to analyze Chile's trade surplus or trade deficit. You should have taken $32 billion and subtracted $25 billion. And because exports are bigger than imports, we can go back to our graph and we can see that we should have a trade surplus, right? So the quick math on that would show us that we have a $7 billion trade surplus. So if you did that, great job. Now, you're done. Have a great day.